The Mediterranean Sea, beautiful yet treacherous. In the 1st century AD, it was a lifeline of the Roman Empire, connecting distant lands and diverse cultures. But it also held deadly dangers, especially for those who dared to sail during the turbulent autumn months. Imagine a ship tossed about like a toy in the grip of a raging tempest. The wind howls with fury, tearing at the sails, while monstrous waves crash over the deck. On board, terror reigns as seasoned sailors face their own mortality. Hope dwindles with each passing moment as the relentless storm pushes them closer to disaster. Among the terrified souls on board, a lone figure stands out. His name is Paul, a prisoner on his way to Rome to face trial. Yet, unlike the others, his face betrays no fear. For Paul carries within him a secret, a message of faith that transcends the fury of the storm. Subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Paul's journey to this storm-tossed ship had been long and arduous. Once a respected Pharisee, his life had taken a radical turn after encountering the risen Christ. Falsely accused, he was arrested and imprisoned, eventually appealing to Caesar himself. Now, as a prisoner of Rome, he found himself on this ill-fated voyage. But Paul was no ordinary prisoner. He carried a message of hope, a faith that refused to be broken. Before he was a shipwreck survivor, Paul was known as Saul of Tarsus, a devout Pharisee. Raised in the heart of Jewish tradition, he dedicated his life to upholding the Mosaic law. But Paul's life was forever changed by a dramatic encounter on the road to Damascus. Blinded by a light from heaven, he heard the voice of Jesus Christ. The persecutor became the persecuted. The guardian of the law became a passionate advocate for the gospel. Paul's unwavering commitment to spreading the gospel led him into dangerous territory. His teachings were viewed as subversive and dangerous. He was arrested multiple times, imprisoned and beaten for his beliefs. Realizing the severity of the charges against him, Paul appealed to Caesar. This decision set in motion a chain of events that would lead him to face the unforgiving wrath of the open sea. Under the watchful eye of Roman centurion Julius, Paul and his fellow prisoners embarked on their journey to Rome. The ship, a large grain freighter from Alexandria, was laden with cargo and passengers. As the ship left the familiar shores of Caesarea, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. The journey began smoothly, but the winds shifted, the seas grew rougher, and the sky darkened with ominous clouds. A storm was brewing, threatening to swallow the ship and all those on board. The Alexandrian grain freighter cut through the choppy waters of the Mediterranean. Its vast hold, crammed with sacks of grain, groaned under the strain of the turbulent sea. Among the passengers, a diverse group thrown together by fate, a palpable tension hung in the air. Merchants, travelers, and prisoners alike cast nervous glances at the stormy sky. Paul, despite his own circumstances, observed the scene with a heavy heart, knowing many were beginning to lose hope. As the days wore on and the storm intensified, a palpable sense of dread settled over the ship. Experienced sailors muttered prayers to Poseidon and Neptune, their pleas for mercy lost in the roar of the tempest. Omens, real or imagined, circulated among the superstitious passengers and crew. Whispers of the Euraquilo, the legendary east wind, spread through the ship like wildfire. Even the bravest among them began to question whether they would ever see land again. The full fury of the Euraquilo descended upon the ship with unrelenting force. The ship, no longer master of its own destiny, was tossed about like a leaf in a hurricane. Giant waves crashed over the deck, sweeping away anything not lashed down. Fear gripped the hearts of those on board as seasoned sailors fought desperately to maintain control. The passengers, huddled together, prayed to their gods, their voices trembling with a mixture of hope and terror. As the Roman cargo ship groaned under the assault of the Euraquilo, a strange sense of calm settled over Paul. While others cowered in fear, Paul stood tall, his eyes reflecting an inner peace. Word of Paul's composure spread quickly, and passengers sought him out, drawn to his tranquility. Sensing their desperation, Paul addressed them, speaking of his God, a God of power and love. He reminded them that faith could provide an anchor for the soul, a source of strength and courage. Days turned into nights, and still the storm raged on. The sky remained a canvas of churning grey and black, the sun a distant memory. Waves continued their assault on the ship, each crash a hammer blow against the hull. Hope dwindled with each passing hour as the ship began to take on water faster than the crew could bail. The darkness, both physical and metaphorical, seemed to press in on them, amplifying their fears. On the 14th night of the storm, a glimmer of hope emerged. Paul, his face illuminated by a strange light, addressed the weary passengers and crew. He spoke of a vision, a message from God, assuring him that they would survive. Encouraged by Paul's words, the passengers and crew gathered around the meager rations, their faces a mixture of apprehension and cautious hope. The storm, though still raging, seemed to lose some of its ferocity, its roar muted by the newfound hope. As dawn broke on the 15th day, a cry rang out from the crow's nest. "Land! Land, ho!" The storm began to subside, its fury spent, and the waves lost some of their ferocity. The sky hinted at the return of the sun, a promise of calmer waters and solid ground, but their ordeal was far from over. As the ship drew closer to the coastline, a new danger presented itself. The cry of "breakers ahead" pierced the air, replacing the euphoria of their impending landfall with a fresh surge of fear. Panic surged through the battered ship like a tidal wave. The sight of the jagged reef looming ever closer ignited a primal fear in the hearts of even the most seasoned sailors. The fragile hope that had blossomed with the first sight of land withered and died, replaced by the cold grip of impending doom. Cries of terror, prayers to distant gods, and the frantic shouts of officers attempting to regain control of the doomed vessel filled the air, creating a cacophony of despair. The ship, caught in the grip of the current, surged forward like a sacrificial beast being dragged to the altar, its timbers groaning in protest as if sensing their impending destruction. The inevitable collision came with a sickening crunch of wood against stone. The ship, impaled upon the unforgiving reef, shuddered violently, its back broken. The mast, once a proud symbol of human defiance against the elements, snapped like a twig, its canvas sails collapsing onto the deck below. The once proud Roman cargo ship, now a shattered wreck upon the jagged reef, was battered mercilessly by the relentless waves. The sky above, though clearing, seemed to weep for the vessel and its occupants. Amidst the chaos and terror, Paul's voice rang out, a beacon of hope in the heart of the storm. He stood on the pitching deck, his chains glinting in the pale light of the emerging sun, his face a mask of calm determination. He spoke not of despair, but of faith, not of death, but of deliverance. He reminded them of the promise he had received, the assurance from God that not a single life would be lost. He urged them to remain calm, to trust in the one who held dominion over the wind and the waves, the one who had brought them this far and would not abandon them now. His words, imbued with the power of his unwavering faith, were like a soothing balm on their ravaged spirits. The Roman centurion, Julius, his face etched with concern but his resolve bolstered by Paul's unwavering belief, ordered his soldiers to maintain order, to prevent further panic and loss of life. Their shared determination, a testament to the unifying power of faith in the face of adversity, radiates outward, calming the panicked hearts around them. The relentless waves, driven by the receding storm, continued their assault on the wreck of the once proud ship. Timbers groaned and splintered, ropes snapped, and the deck beneath their feet tilted at an increasingly precarious angle. But through it all, Paul's words echoed in their ears, a lifeline to cling to as their world crumbled around them. With a final agonizing groan, the ship split apart, its shattered remnants tossed about by the waves like kindling. The passengers and crew, following Paul's instructions, had donned whatever they could find to provide buoyancy and prepared to abandon the wreck. Mothers clutched their children, husbands supported their wives, and the Roman soldiers, their discipline holding strong, prepared to assist those in need. The bonds of human connection, forged in the crucible of shared fear and the glimmer of shared hope, proved stronger than the storm that raged around them. As the last of the survivors plunged into the churning waters, the remnants of the ship, its cargo of grain spilling out into the sea, slipped beneath the waves, a poignant reminder of the fragility of human endeavors against the awesome power of nature. But above the roar of the surf, above the cries of the desperate and the prayers of the faithful, a single word echoed, a word that spoke of hope, of survival, of a faith that refused to be extinguished. That word carried on the wind was land. The turbulent waters of the Mediterranean, once a churning maelstrom of destruction, now teemed with the flotsam and jetsam of the shattered Roman cargo ship. Timbers, planks, and shattered remnants of the vessel bobbed amidst the waves, silent witnesses to the fury of the storm and the resilience of those who had dared to defy its wrath. Clinging to whatever wreckage they could find, the survivors of the shipwreck fought for their lives. The storm, though abating, still churned the sea, tossing them about like driftwood. The cold salt water stung their eyes, the wind whipped at their faces, and the weight of their sodden clothing dragged them down. Fear, a constant companion throughout their ordeal, threatened to consume them. The cries of the injured, the gasps of those struggling to stay afloat, and the mournful cries of those who had lost loved ones in the chaos, mingled with the receding roar of the storm, creating a symphony of despair. Yet, amidst the fear and the struggle for survival, a glimmer of hope remained. Paul's words, his unwavering belief in their deliverance, echoed in their hearts, a lifeline to cling to in the face of death. And as if in answer to their unspoken prayers, the currents shifted, carrying them towards a distant shore, a sliver of land on the horizon. The island of Malta, rising from the sea like a slumbering giant, offered sanctuary to the battered and weary survivors. As they drew closer, the details of the coastline sharpened. Rocky cliffs, sandy coves, and verdant hillsides, a tapestry of nature's resilience against the unforgiving power of the sea. The waves, their fury spent, deposited the exhausted survivors onto the sandy shore, a jumble of bruised and battered humanity. Some crawled onto the beach, their limbs heavy with exhaustion, their lungs gasping for air. Others, too weak to move, were gently carried ashore by their companions, their eyes reflecting the trauma they had endured. As they lay there, catching their breath, taking stock of their losses and their blessings, a sense of profound gratitude washed over them. They had survived. Against all odds, they had cheated death. The storm, which had threatened to swallow them whole, had deposited them on the shores of this unfamiliar island, a place of refuge, a sanctuary from the storm. The islanders, a hardy people accustomed to the capricious nature of the sea, emerged from their homes, drawn by the sight of the wrecked ship and the plight of its survivors. With open arms and hearts filled with compassion, they welcomed the strangers, offering them food, shelter, and the warmth of human kindness. The storm had passed, leaving in its wake a trail of destruction and loss. But amidst the wreckage, something remarkable had taken root, a testament to the enduring power of faith, the strength of human connection, and the boundless compassion of strangers. On the shores of Malta, a new chapter was about to begin, a chapter written in the language of hope, resilience, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, even in the face of unimaginable adversity, the human spirit buoyed by faith and love could endure. The battered survivors, washed ashore on the island of Malta, found more than just physical refuge. They encountered a profound truth that transcended the storm's fury. Their harrowing experience, a testament to the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of the sea, became a powerful metaphor for the Christian journey. Just as the ship, buffeted by the relentless waves, had been driven off course, so too can our lives be tossed about by the storms of doubt, fear, and adversity. Yet, like the ship finding its way to an unexpected haven, our trials, though often painful and disorienting, can lead us to unexpected blessings, to places of growth, resilience, and deeper faith. The storm, once a symbol of chaos and destruction, becomes a catalyst for transformation, stripping away our illusions of control, revealing the depths of our own strength, and drawing us closer to the one who holds dominion over the wind and the waves. Paul's unwavering faith, his composure in the face of danger, and his message of hope resonated deeply with those who had shared his ordeal. The shipwreck, a tragedy averted through divine intervention and human compassion, became a testament to the power of faith, to sustain us in the darkest of times, to bind us together in the bonds of love, and to guide us towards a safe harbor, even when the storm clouds seem to obscure our vision. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe.